And here you can see Fisichella, the leader, rejoining behind Kimi Raikkonen. So Fisichella slots back in 4th place, but Raikkonen has to stop again, and so do the 2 cars in front of him. There you can see the schematic. And, well, as you said, Martin, this certainly looks good for Fisichella, unless he has some sort of problem now, because Raikkonen has just not had the opportunity to make up the time.
No, Alba's amazingly he's back out in that Minardi that we saw on fire. He's 17, 3 retirements. Pizzonia spun off. Truly had that incident with Sato. We only caught a brief glimpse of it, but Sato was steaming up the inside of him. And obviously truly felt that was another banzai move that was unreasonable. And Montoya running around the outside at the end of the first lap. It was the first retirement of the day when he felt Villeneuve didn't leave him any space. So he was straight out of the Grand Prix. Fisichella has dropped back to 4th, so Button leads the Grand Prix for the 2nd time today.
Well, Raikkonen is racing with Fernando Alonso. The pair of them have come through from the back of the field, and Alonso is 42 seconds behind, was 42 seconds behind Fisichella before Fisichella made that stop. It takes 22 seconds to make a pit stop here, so if Raikkonen were to come in soon, he would rejoin a couple of seconds in front of Alonso. So he's not making hay with a low fuel load because he's stuck behind Webber and Button, but neither is Alonso at the moment able to use the sort of pace, show us the sort of pace he'd need in order to be able to get past Raikkonen.
Yeah, you're right. Raikkonen's doing the mid-33s, Alonso a 33.8 with the heavier fuel load, so he's not going to clear him at this stage. So at the moment, it's a very, very big fight for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th, I think, at the end of this Grand Prix. Louise has been down to Minardi.
Yeah, I'm down here at the moment. I've just had a word with Richard Baxter, the man on the who actually puts the fuel hose onto the car. Same man who put the fuel hose onto the car at Monza a couple of years ago when the team had a fire with Gian Maria Bruni, and it was a very similar problem that caused it. Basically, there was fuel flowing from the nozzle before it was actually connected to the car, obviously something which is not supposed to happen. That fuel's dripped down onto the exhaust and caused the fire. The good news is, though, that nobody hurt down here. The car's been cleaned up and Albert is back out on track.
Thank you for that, Louise Goodman, down in the pits. And, well, Jenson Button leading this Grand Prix for the 2nd time here, but without really a chance of winning it. Mark Webber having his strongest drive, I think, pretty much of the season, actually. He drove well in Monaco and got a podium there, his first podium in Formula 1. Probably feels he should have been 2nd on the day, but the pit strategy meant that teammate Nick Heidfeld in fact finished 2nd and Webber was 3rd, but since then this is definitely Webber's strongest drive. Raikkonen is 3rd, you can see right behind him. Fisichella, having made his final stop this afternoon, is just 3.5 seconds behind them. Michael Schumacher is 5th. He has yet to make his 2nd stop. So has David Coulthard, who's also had a very strong weekend here for Red Bull Racing, in 6th place. Ralf Schumacher, he's got to make one more stop as well in the Toyota. He's in 7th. Fernando Alonso, well, he's pushing as hard as he can. He's just come in for a fuel stop. He's down in 8th place. He should leapfrog Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard when they make their stops, and Michael Schumacher as well. So that'll put, well, it's going to be very close at the finish between Raikkonen, Fisichella and Alonso.
Fisichella's had a poor outlap, a 1:34.7, so he'll need to pick that pace up, and then the Grand Prix, I still believe, very much in his pocket. A huge fight then is Button, Webber, Raikkonen, Michael Schumacher and Alonso for what I think will be 2nd through 6th. I think they should be quite close together at the end of this Grand Prix. 3 of them are already.
Certainly been a gripper. The BAR Honda team come out ready for a pit stop. I imagine that's probably for Jenson Button. He pitted first time round on lap 22. He had a sticking fuel sticky fuel valve I should say, and the team expected to have the same problem again, so we'll have to watch this pit stop quite closely. Jenson doesn't want to lose too much time, otherwise he will lose the place to Mark Webber.
It was the flap, wasn't it? Didn't Ted say? I thought when they put the speed limiter on, the flap automatically comes up, and I got the impression that didn't happen on. They had to sort of jemmy it open when he got in to the pit lane. Jenson goes right into the pit lane, and we'll keep an eye on it. We're on board with him. Let's hope we stay that way, although we won't see the fuel flap from there. Yeah, it's up, no problem at all, and Williams have covered that off as well with a Webber pit stop, so it's a straight fight between the two teams then. The two teams that have been fighting hard over Jenson Button services for the last 2 years, basically, and Webber's away fastest. Webber's away first, and he's going to take it. and he is. He's going to take it. So that's amazing. Excellent pit work there from Williams. That's the second car they've cleared for him today. They cleared Coulthard's Red Bull earlier on, and Jenson will be gutted to see that.
Especially seeing as it appears the fuel flap was open for Jenson Button. Disappointment in the BAR Honda garage, but fantastic pit work, as you say, by the Williams mechanics. First time round they got him to leapfrog Coulthard in a straight fight in the pits, and second time round he leapfrogs Jenson Button. So Webber in front of Button. Kimi Raikkonen leads this Grand Prix then, but he has yet to make a second stop. Giancarlo Fisichella is in second place. Michael Schumacher is in third place. David Coulthard as well. And how long before Raikkonen comes in for his stop? He has got 5 seconds now over Fisichella, but those laps lost behind Webber and Button have certainly cost Raikkonen the chance of winning this Grand Prix. It would have been very interesting to see what would have happened if he'd been able to clear those two.
I think Raikkonen's going to end up in front of that little lot in P2. He's on his fastest lap of the race now, where he's got to make hay, because it was amazing to see Alonso right up behind Webber and Button too, so that gives you an indication. It's a 1:31.9 for Kimi Raikkonen. That's a fast lap. That's going to give him P2, I believe, when he has his, after he's had his stop. Ted's got some news on Raikkonen.
Yeah, well, no, actually, down at Williams, big high fives as Michael Schumacher pits. High fives and smiles at Williams at beating Jenson Button out of the pits, considering what's happened all this year. But also on Alonso, Martin, that was a planned stop for Fernando Alonso. He had to come in there, but it's worked out quite well with them, with Raikkonen, even though he's up against them now.
Some not a great deal of rubber on the inside of the front tyres of the Ferrari there. They run about 3 degrees of front cam, but the top of the tyre leans in, so you tend to wear the inside of the tyre out, and certainly the Ferraris look like they're struggling on that at the moment. So Raikkonen was leading by 7.2 seconds. Fisichella did a 1:34.0. He's going to have to pick that pace up if he wants this Grand Prix. I know there's only a bit more than that to go. Fisichella will get the hurry-up sign very soon, because he's not lapping fast enough with the pace this little man's running at now.
Yep, certainly he's taking over 2 seconds a lap out of him. It's now 7.2 the gap. You need 22 seconds to make a pit stop here and rejoin in front, and Raikkonen's going to have to pit sometime in the next 2 or 3 laps, I reckon, so he's probably not going to have quite enough time. But that's not to say that once he rejoins the racetrack in the closing stage of this Grand Prix, he isn't going to be able to close up to Fisichella and attack him. So we could well have a grandstand finish here at Suzuka to this Grand Prix. Certainly Kimi Raikkonen has been held up a great deal during the course of this Grand Prix by all kinds of people. We've seen some spectacular overtaking on a track that most people consider it very difficult to overtake at, and much of the overtaking has not taken place where the obvious spot into the chicane. It's taken place all over the place. But here's Fisichella, pressure on him now. 8.7 seconds the gap. It's growing all the time. Raikkonen really pushing hard. Coulthard third, but he's yet to make another stop. So has Ralf Schumacher, who's in fourth place. Webber has made his second and final stop. So has Alonso, who's passed Jenson Button. We haven't seen it, but Alonso has just got past Jenson Button out there on the racetrack. He's in sixth place. Button then having all kinds of problems after his second fuel stop, dropping down into seventh place. So he's lost 2 places now, Jenson Button. But at least he got back out in front of Michael Schumacher. Massa 9th, Klein 10th.
Another fastest first sector for Raikkonen then, and I'm sure they're telling Fisichella to get on with it now. He's 8.7 seconds behind. Raikkonen yet to stop, as is Coulthard in third place.
Raikkonen will be okay, because if he makes a stop soon, he'll come out around about Ralf Schumacher, who's yet to make another stop, and David Coulthard, who's in front of him in third place, who also has yet to make another stop. So it's looking good for the moment for Raikkonen, pushing hard, now 10.5 seconds clear of Giancarlo Fisichella. Another new fastest lap, a 1:31.540, 1.2 seconds quicker than last year's fastest lap. Into the pits comes Ralf Schumacher. That's exactly what the McLaren team wanted to see, and David Coulthard as well. Third and fourth place men. Where will they rejoin?
I think it's looking like a P7 and P8 for those two later on. But, well, I'd given the race to Fisichella, but he's just got to pick his speed up. He's going too slowly now. And Kimi obviously has been told, if you push hard, you can win this race, Kimi. And is he flying? Another fastest first sector for him on this lap, having set a new lap record on the previous tour. Raikkonen now the main man.
Well, the strategy is certainly working out in Raikkonen's favour vis-a-vis Fernando Alonso. He's come from behind him. Alonso was extremely aggressive and extremely fast in the early stages, but well, it seems that Raikkonen is going to be certainly well up the road of Alonso when he comes out from this pit stop. So there's Kimi Raikkonen. The McLaren mechanics are waiting for him. We're riding on board as he comes down the pit lane. Here he goes. Race leader. This will hand the lead back to Giancarlo Fisichella, but then we will have a real run to the finish. In he comes then. Inspecting the tyres, clearing the radiators. Well, he wants to get on with that, doesn't he? Pushing back out again. There's Fisichella. He takes the lead back again, and that is the margin. And that, with 8 laps to go, that's what Raikkonen has to close up now. Fisichella lapping in the low 1 minute 33s. It'll be difficult for Raikkonen to go substantially faster than that unless he's feeling completely inspired. But nevertheless, I wouldn't put anything past Kimi Raikkonen. Just 8 laps to go in the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka, the penultimate round of the 2005 Formula One World Championship. We're about 250, 300 miles from Tokyo, only an hour and a half on one of the miraculous bullet trains that they have in this country. And what a Grand Prix we are seeing. Kimi Raikkonen has just made a pit stop. He is racing against Giancarlo Fisichella for the victory. Fisichella then is back into the lead. Raikkonen is second. Mark Webber, having a fantastic drive this afternoon, is in third place. Alonso has leapfrogged Button into fourth. Button then down into fifth place. Coulthard has got himself in front of Michael Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher. So the Red Bull Racing team having a terrific afternoon, and Coulthard, clearly inspired here, is in sixth place. Michael Schumacher seventh, ahead of his brother in eighth place. And Raikkonen is just 5 seconds behind Fisichella, having started from the back of the grid here this afternoon. Raikkonen was 17th. Fisichella was third on the grid. It's been an unbelievable Grand Prix with overtaking action throughout the field. We've had a number of different leaders of this. At several stages, the big names have been held up behind slower traffic. It's cost them time, but it's been absolutely wonderful entertainment. Alonso has gone round the outside of Michael Schumacher to take a pass in the 130R corner. But anyway, that is the order in the closing stage of this Grand Prix, and I wouldn't put any money against Raikkonen having a go at Fisichella here.
It's catching him 4 tenths already in the first sector. Raikkonen was faster in the middle sector on his outlap by 7 tenths faster than Fisichella on his outlap. He's absolutely on fire, and Fisichella's really been sleeping a little bit, I think. He had such a cushion, but he's been so slow after his final stop. It's all just ebbed away, and now Raikkonen, you have to say, amazingly, Raikkonen looks favourite for this Grand Prix. Alonso attacking Webber for the final podium slot. Button has slipped down to fifth, as you say. Coulthard passing Michael Schumacher up to sixth, so we're looking at a fifth and sixth for the Brits. But right now, it's all about how quickly will Raikkonen catch Fisichella, and what can he do about it when he gets there. He is a second up in the first 2 sectors of this current lap, and he's another 2 tenths up in the final sector too. So that's 1.2 in 1 lap alone. The gap down to just 4.3 seconds now.
Absolutely scintillating end to this amazing Japanese Grand Prix. Alonso wants to get on the podium as well. He's lining up Mark Webber. There's an awful lot still to play for here. And just to remind you, not that long ago, we were talking about Fisichella enjoying a 20-second lead over Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen stayed out longer on his strategy than Fisichella. As you say, Martin, Fisichella was a little bit off the pace, having made that fuel stop for whatever reason. Maybe it's the car, maybe it's him. But now it's going to be an absolutely scintillating finish, and Ted Kravitz is standing by in the Renault garage.
Yeah, and they're nervously, frantically talking to Fisichella on the radio, his engineer Alan Permain, telling him to push as hard as he possibly can. They've given him some more engine revs to try and just keep him ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. Meantime, absolutely assured calm down here at the McLaren garage, but crucial for Renault, James, because Alonso cannot seem to pass Webber.
Well, we'll wait and see on that one, Ted, but let me remind you of the context of this battle, because the Constructors' Championship, the only thing left to play for in this World Championship, because obviously, as we know, Alonso has already wrapped up the driver's title. Well, Renault trail McLaren here by 2 points. So if Fisichella's leading this Grand Prix, that's 10 points. Raikkonen second, that's 8. Alonso is fourth, that is 5 points. But all of that could really change here if they can get past each other. If Raikkonen, who's now only 3 seconds behind Giancarlo Fisichella, can close up and pass. If Alonso, who's less than a second behind Mark Webber, can pick up an extra point here or there, it could make all the difference in the Constructors' Championship, particularly as Montoya will score nothing. He's out of the race. Look at this though. Alonso's going for it down the inside on the grass, 2 wheels. Fernando Alonso, what a brilliant move once again. Another fantastic pass.
Stunning. Alonso is totally fearless today. He got a better run out of the chicane, picked up the slipstream. Webber thought he'd covered him off, so Alonso took a little bit of grass to give himself the extra space he needed. He's up to P3, but Fisichella can't respond. He's 6/10 slower in the first sector on this current lap than Raikkonen. Raikkonen is just reeling him in. Fisichella seems like he mentally had this, was standing on the top step of the podium and now just cannot respond. But look at this from Fernando Alonso. Incredible bravery. Reminded me of when Michael Schumacher put him on the grass going down to Stowe and he just hung on in there. But didn't make the pass on that occasion, but did he get through this time? It's been a great drive from Webber too, but look, there is Fisichella, and now there is the flying Raikkonen, and as soon as Fisichella starts to see him in his mirrors, then he's under extra pressure.
He certainly is. 5 to go here then, 4 at the end of this lap. They're going to cross the line any time now. 4 laps to go under the view of that huge Ferris wheel, the giant funfair behind this racetrack here at Suzuka, designed back in the early 1960s, home to the Japanese Grand Prix since 1987. It's seen some fantastic races, but I can't think of any better than this one. 53 laps of this Grand Prix have been scintillating really from start to finish. Fisichella leading Raikkonen by just 1.8 seconds, and look at how he's eaten into his lead. Over a second a lap for the last 3 laps. And what amazing bravery by Fernando Alonso. He's already wrapped up the Drivers' Championship, and yet he's still taking huge risks for a podium finish here, for another point for his team in the Constructors' Championship. What commitment, what bravery.
Well, when Kimi gets there, and this back marker, the Minardi, might just play into this equation here, but when Kimi arrives, he's got to just drill him straight away. If he ends up settling in behind him and getting in that turbulent air, he's going to struggle. There's not enough time left. But look, Fisichella's got to clear the Minardi down the back straight here. He must, and he will, I think, get past the Minardi. And if he has to hesitate on the way into 130R, Raikkonen's going to be right with him. And look, the Minardi moves to the left and blocks Fisichella, and he's also going to block Raikkonen on the exit of 130R. But Raikkonen, the net winner there, and Fisichella almost off the racetrack as he went to the inside to pass the Minardi, and the Minardi decided to yield at that time, and that's played beautifully into Kimi Raikkonen's hands.
Certainly has. Down the pitch straight then with just 3 laps to go. Raikkonen has taken 1.3 seconds on that lap out of Giancarlo Fisichella, and now the 20-second lead of a few laps ago is down to just half a second, 2 car lengths, and well, you'd have to say that Kimi Raikkonen is looking very, very good here. When and where will he attack Giancarlo Fisichella, who's just struggling with the pace, frankly? 1:33.717 is 6/10 of a lap slower than his teammate Alonso's doing at this point in the Grand Prix. Clearly Fisichella perhaps not quite happy with the tyres, not quite happy with something in the balance of the car. It's not really under him in the way that the McLaren is under Kimi Raikkonen here today. And the 2 Renaults are going to be on the podium with the McLaren, but what will the order be?
We've got Coulthard catching Button as well quite quickly for 5th and 6th. It's all going on down the field, but now Kimi is in that dirty air and you can see the car moving around in Spoon Corner, but look, he should get a nice tow from this position and just haul himself nicely up to the back of the Renault, looking at 130R, and the McLaren is mighty. So look at the slipstream he's getting down there, the Renault hitting the ground hard, and what are you doing? What are you going so defensive for? That wasn't necessary at all. And there was Fisichella defending some fresh air.
Was interesting though, did you see Fisichella on the left? His throttle was flat through 130R corner. Raikkonen lifted, but he's coming down the inside now. He's lining him up for trying to pass down the outside into the first corner. Well, he's just letting him know he's there. I think Fisichella's well aware of that. Very interesting to compare how they're working the throttle and the brake, these two. Fisichella lifting off earlier than Raikkonen into turn 3. You see, up the sequence of up the hill. Only one line through here, no chance of passing through here. But Raikkonen will be very keen to get as close as he can through the spoon curve, turns 13 and 14, in order to do what he did last time, get really good tow out of the straight and into 130R corner, the closing stage of this lap.
Well, Fisichella mustn't pull that trick again. If he's got to take the better line through the chicane, otherwise Raikkonen's going to have him down into turn 1. But he obviously was expecting an attack, but clearly Raikkonen was way too far behind, and that's the concertina effect of a hairpin you're seeing there, as the driver in front is always going to be on the throttle a car length earlier, and with the amount of power these things have got, begins to pull away. Look at Raikkonen, he's just all over him like a rash. He's got so much more grip and balance and confidence. But this is the exit of Spoon again then, and Fisichella up the inside. He's now moved to the outside, the racing line, and Raikkonen is absolutely hauling him in. And again, he goes defensive when he doesn't need to. It puts him out of shape then for the exit then, as we saw earlier on. Has he got enough traction to keep the McLaren behind him? He's really left himself to be a sitting target now. He'll have to go defensive down the inside. He'll have to go tighter than that. Oh, and they nearly touched. Can Raikkonen sweep in? Yes, he can. Brilliant.
What a brilliant move! Side by side down the straight. Grand Prix racing at its absolute finest. Kimi Raikkonen sweeps through to take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. He started from 17th place. Let's enjoy this again.
There, and he moves to the right to force him to the left-hand side, but there's so much more grip there, and then it's Fisichella facing the tighter line into the corner. But again, he got it all wrong at the top chicane by just compromising his exit. And then, as I said, he was always going to be a sitting target down the pit straight. Brilliant stuff from Raikkonen.
Absolutely sensational. Kimi Raikkonen then heading for his 10th Grand Prix victory, the 7th of this season. And what a year he has had, and what an amazing Japanese Grand Prix he has had as well. Fighting his way through, it seemed as though he lost his chance when he got tucked up behind Jenson Button and Mark Webber, and Fisichella had a 20-second advantage over him, but he's managed to whittle it down. Brilliant strategy this afternoon by the McLaren team. And here he comes then. Takuma Sato there has caused a few problems this afternoon, but not as Raikkonen sweeps through to lap him. And one of the most dramatic Grand Prix in living memory comes to a close with Kimi Raikkonen, the winner! Absolutely sensational performance. In second place will be Giancarlo Fisichella. Raikkonen loves that. And in third place, Fernando Alonso. Another good shout for drive of the day for Mark Webber. We haven't seen much of him, but fourth place for him in the Williams. Jenson Button, the early promise, didn't work out for him. He's going to come through in fifth.
And now, first of all, a drink, and now the champagne!